evening. I am Sister Catherine Wright. I'm privileged to be the Executive Director of Maryville Academy. This evening, our guest is Ann Craig from Maryville Gen School. This evening, you are watching Maryville Cares. This is a live interactive show on CAN TV 21. We are also streaming live at cantv.org/hotline. The next 25 minutes is your chance to discuss early intervention and special education questions and issues for your children. So we are directing this program once again to families, to parents and caretakers for how you can look out for your children. And this evening's discussion is about obtaining those special services your child may need, either as early intervention or special education. We'll talk about what all those words mean, and we have a great guest that's going to help us. If you have a question, please call us at the number you see at the bottom of the screen. For CAN TV, this is 312-738-1060. Let me say again, 312-738-1060. And now I'm delighted, Ann, to welcome you to the program. And I'm going to ask a little bit about your credentials a little later into the show, but let's get right into what families need to know. And I need to say, we're not offering any legal advice here. We're not offering any medical advice, but I think you will find valuable what Ann can tell us about providing these special services for children. So, Ann, what is Child Find?
Child Find, well, first of all, thank you for letting me be here tonight. Child Find is a set of procedures that all school districts must have in place to locate and identify children and do assessments and screenings on children 0 to 21. And those screenings are done annually to identify if there are any educational needs for children.
So who does these screenings?
The school districts does the screenings, and they have a set of professionals that conduct these screenings within the school district boundaries.
So let me be very clear. Parents, I want you to hear this. School districts, by Illinois law,
and federal
law, can and should conduct screenings that will help children obtain the services they need that help them with particular learning opportunities. Is that right?
Absolutely. And they're in place, and they're done annually, and they're at no cost. And the school districts are required to do those, and they're happy to do those.
So what is a screening?
A screening could be a variety of different types of tools designed to measure a student's vision, hearing, medical health, academic, and it's set up to and it's geared to make sure that a student is achieving at their grade level or age level.
So a screening is for groups of children?
Yes.
It's not individualized. We're not getting to that yet, parents, but we will. But this screening is not specifically for one child, it's for a group of children.
Correct.
And the school district will conduct this.
Correct.
And what's the earliest age at which they can conduct this?
They start those screenings at birth and work their way up, birth to 21.
So parents, I want to make sure that you're hearing this as well. If you have infants or toddlers, they also can have the benefit of this kind of screening for early needs. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's important to do the early intervention. The sooner you do the earlier intervention, the sooner children are identified and assisted and helped through the system.
So if there are parents out there asking the question I asked you, Ann, before we started the program, what are you going to do for a 2-year-old?
There's a lot you can do. If you're having any concerns about your 2-year-old, they can work with the vision, hearing, gross motor skills, communication skills, any types of functional or adaptive skills that you may have concerns with. Those are kinds of things that the school district can identify and start working with you on.
Okay, so now the idea of a screening is initiated by the school district.
Right.
And the school district is doing that for, let's say, maybe it would decide to do a screening for all the 3-year-olds in the district.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
How would the parents know that they're going to do a screening?
A notice will go out, and they will notify parents that a screening is done, and then send out the results of those screenings.
Okay. And so the parents are entitled to know.
Absolutely.
And parents, I think we want to emphasize right now and all the way through this program. You are important partners to this process all the way through. I know Ann's going to say that as we are talking about it.
Absolutely.
So actually, Ann, maybe this is a good time before we get into what I want to ask about special education. How did you get into this work, and what are your credentials?
I started in special education when I was actually 15 years old. I started working at a camp for special ed when I was during the summer as a camp counselor. And that changed my life and directed me into the field of special education. Became a teacher, taught high school special ed for 10 years, and then became an administrator for special education, and then a director of special education services.
So you have a little bit of experience, huh?
Just
How many years?
Just a little bit. Yeah, I've been in the professional field for almost 30 years.
And you are currently the principal of our Maryville Gen School.
Yes.
Which is a special education school.
Yes, it's an alternative day school for special needs students.
Okay, now we want to get to the question, and since you do know about this, we've just told parents that school districts can initiate screening of groups of children to see if they have needs. Now, we hear this word special education. What does that mean?
Special education is federal law under the IDEA, Individuals with Disability Act, that provides services and education learning goals for students that have been identified with an educational need.
And this is because of a federal law, is that correct?
Federal law, yes.
And then Illinois has its own laws.
Illinois has laws that coincide and meet the federal requirements.
And parents, and those of you who are caring for children, we don't want you to feel alone. You might be surprised to know that more than 6 million children in the United States receive what's known as special education services or related services. So this is not something that one or the other child receives that gives a bad label for a child. This is a service to help a child succeed for the future. Am I saying this correctly, Ann?
Absolutely correct.
And we're going to continue with this. We want to share 2 websites with you. So I'm going to put those on at this point, and you can see 2 educational resources. Ann, will you please tell the parents?
The first educational resource is for the Chicago Public Schools Office of Diverse Learners. They also they provide the special education services for the city of Chicago and the public school district there. They have a wonderful handbook for parents, and that details the services that they offer through the Chicago Public School District. The second website is the Illinois State Board of Education. There they offer a wealth of information for the special education programs, and they offer tremendous resources for you there.
So parents in Chicago might want to go to the first resource. Parents in other parts of Illinois would want to go to the second resource.
Right. And also parents in other school districts outside of the Chicago Public School District can go to their own school district's website, and there they can find information and just find under the administration tab, usually there is a tab for special education or student services, and there you can find information under special education.
So we want to come back to talking now that we've talked about the resources, and we'll come back to these websites again in the program. But Ann, we want to talk about special education. And as we do that, I want to remind all of our viewers that they are watching Maryville Cares. This is a live interactive show on CAN TV 21, and we are also streaming online at cantv.org/hotline. So Ann, you told us what special education is. Who's eligible for services under special education?
Students who have been identified through the referral and evaluation process are eligible for special education. And those students have gone through that process.
And when you say they're eligible, what makes them eligible? Under special education, they have to have something called a disability, is that right?
Right. So once students have gone through the screening process, or a parent or a guardian or somebody close to the student has requested an evaluation or a referral, the referral process has started. The referral process has gone to the school district for an initial referral. The district has decided that they will accept the referral. Then an evaluation is done. And at that first meeting, they will decide what areas they will test. That's called a domains meeting. And then they will decide what areas as far as health, vision, academic cognition, visual, motor, and so on. And then during that meeting, parents will consent to having those tests done.
So let's just make sure parents know this. Parents, the first thing we talked about was the screening, where the school district is going to provide a screening of groups of children in a more general sense to see if they need the services. This now that we are talking about, the evaluation, is specifically for your child.
Correct.
And it can only happen, is it correct? It can only happen if you give permission.
Correct. And you are going to be asked to give permission at each step of this process. You will need to give permission for testing to be done, and then you will be requested to give permission for the IEP and so on.
And how much will this cost the parents?
It's at no cost to the parents. The school district will provide these services.
Now, you may be saying, yes, right, we've heard that before. But we want everyone who's working with the child to know that there is a federal law. It's called the IDEA. Is that correct?
Individuals with Disability Education Act.
And that's the law that governs
Yes.
a lot of what we're talking about this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so parents, the truth of it is that when you ask for your child to be evaluated, or when the school district says to you, parents, would you please give permission for your child to be evaluated, the school district will pay for these evaluations. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. I'm having Ann make sure I'm telling you this correctly now here. So Ann, can you talk to us some more about what that evaluation consists of?
The evaluation consists of, as I mentioned, those different areas, and they're designed to make sure that we're looking at the whole child. As an educator, we want to make sure that we're looking at the whole child and making sure we're getting a complete picture of the student's needs. So then we come back together after all of those evaluations are done, and they're completed by school professionals, school psychologists, nurse, and people that know the child completely. The parents are also asked to give input, to give us their strengths and weaknesses and what they know about the child and express their concerns. So then we come back together in the evaluation meeting, and at that meeting, the results are given to the parents. And then an IEP is written based on if the child is eligible for special education.
So now we're going to talk about another term in IEP, but I want to just emphasize again, parents, I know I'm saying this several times, but I think it's important to know you would be at this conference getting the results.
You are a key member of this meeting. This is all about your child, so you are definitely an aspect that needs to be at this meeting. So without you, we really can't, as an educator, cannot go further because we're reporting the results to you about your child. So you are a key player of the IEP team. You're a part of the evaluation team, you're a part of the IEP team. The IEP is the individual education plan that is written to focus on your students, your child's goals and objectives.
Okay, so you've just told us what that plan is. Who's the team that works with the IEP plan?
The team is the classroom teacher, the parents, the student if the student is old enough, and the school psychologist, the school nurse, and any related service personnel that are working with that student. They're part of the team. A regular instructor to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the student in the general ed curriculum, and anyone else that is working with the student in that area.
So when the team is working together on a plan, it's an actual written plan, is that right? And the parents will get a copy and everyone else will get a copy.
Absolutely.
And that plan will set some goals?
They'll set goals and benchmarks and talk about present levels of performance, as well as the goals and objectives, and then related services.
So does this mean that the child who's receiving these services is not going to be in the classroom with the other children?
It's individualized, and it depends on where the student is going to be educated, and it depends on the level of need for that student.
So can you give us some examples?
So it's a continuum of placements for students as far as where they will be educated. Some students will have an IEP where they will be receiving services in the mainstream with a special ed teacher working with a regular ed teacher, and that IEP will be carried out in that setting. Some students will be have an IEP and their needs are such where they'll be in a resource class. So they will get their special education needs met in a resource class. They'll have regular classes, they'll go to the special ed classroom at the end of the day or some point in their school day and get their resource class help in that resource room. Some students will be in a self-contained classroom within a regular ed building, where they'll be in a special ed classroom all day with the special ed teacher and maybe a teaching assistant. So that's how their special ed services will be delivered.
And is this how it's going to be for the child until the child finishes all the grades?
No, it really depends on each individual child and the progress of that child and that child, how the child will progress through their academics and where they will go and what their goals are and what they best suits them.
So when is the progress evaluated?
The progress is, on the IEP, the progress is evaluated quarterly, every 9 weeks or so, and then the IEP is rewritten annually.
Oh, each year?
Each year, or unless a parent requests that it be evaluated before then.
And is the parent present for the evaluation?
Yes.
Is the parent present for those quarterly meetings?
The parents get a copy of the IEP updates, those quarterly updates, and then parent-teacher conferences, or however the district, each individual district decides to handle those updates.
Okay, and is there ever a retesting to see how the child is doing?
By law, testing is done every 3 years.
Okay.
Unless a parent waives that right or because no new information needs to be gathered.
Okay, so here we are. Let's go back to the resources for just a moment. I want to remind our parents where they can go for some assistance if this is an area of concern for your child. We have the Chicago Public Schools Office of Diverse Learners and the Illinois State Board of Education. Now, Ann, I want to come back to you. You've described some of the different types of services. There's a particular kind of service I'd like you to tell our parents about called transition services.
Right. That's for students who in Illinois are 14 and a half and older. The federal law states 16, but for Illinois students it's age 14 and a half. And that's transition plan. And the focus of the transition plan and transition services is to get students ready for life after high school and prepare them for the world of work or college or trade school, whatever the goal is for that student. And it's the student's goals. It's what they want to do after school. So the academic portion of their IEP, the independent living portion of their IEP, and their vocational part of their IEP is geared towards working with them to get them ready for that transition out of high school.
So when you say it's what the young person wants to do, what if the parents think the young person should do one set of activities and the young student wants to do a different set? How does that get resolved?
We try and find a happy medium, and we try and be realistic with our students. Some of our students want to be basketball stars. Mm-hmm. And we all know that not all of our students are going to be basketball stars, but we try and find their strengths, and we try and work with their strengths and feed them into that direction and work with them in that way.
And can you talk about a success story that you've seen to give our parents a sense of how this can work?
We've seen many of our students work with come to us with a great deal, many problems with the environment that they've come from for various reasons. And we've worked with them in developing their goals, and our students are older. at Gen School, and so they participate in the goal development and working with their IEPs. And what we've done with the parents' input and the school district's input is we've worked with them to get them to transition back to their home schools. And whether that's in the self-contained or partial mainstream classroom, that's been a success for us and for the students, because that's been their goal, and working with them to return to their home school districts. The other success that I've seen is when we've graduated students is seeing them start working on jobs or going on to college, to your college, community college programs. Those have been successful.
Great. So there's we know that this can work.
Yes.
If it's done right. Now, I'm sure some parents are thinking, what happens if I think my child needs some services and the school doesn't? What does a parent do?
There's resources for parents. They're at every meeting that parents have the opportunity to express their concerns that way. And there's a procedural handbook that parents are given, rights and procedures. They can also contact the Illinois State Board of Education to discuss the mediation and due process.
I'll do that overhead one last time. This is the Illinois State Board of Education website, and the parent book that you just mentioned, Dan, when do the parents receive that?
At each IEP meeting.
So if their child qualifies for an IEP,
Right.
They'll receive the book.
Right.
What if a parent asks for an evaluation and the school says no?
The school district will present them in writing why the evaluation was determined by the school district not to be appropriate, and then the parent has the opportunity to appeal that process.
Last question.
Sure.
What if there's a parent here who's saying, oh, I'm worried whether I'm labeling my child?
If you are concerned about your child getting into special education and not because of the label, it's not necessarily the label that you have to worry about. It's trying to make sure you're getting the help for your child that your child needs. Special education isn't really a label, it's a set of services to help your child go forward and getting the services that they need in order to achieve in the education world.
Thank you, Ann, for all you've presented, and I want to remind our viewers, Ann Craig has been talking with us this evening about early intervention services, starting at birth practically, through the 21st year. Is that right? The
Actually,
special education services.
Day before their 22nd birthday.
So parents, if you have concerns about this early intervention services or special education services, as Ann has been saying, the school district has resources and can partner with you to make sure your child receives these services. I'm Sister Catherine Ryan from Maryville Academy. I thank you for being with us for this program. And if you need more information, you can contact, I guess I am going to show the overhead one more time so that you have the websites. Thank you for being with us on CAN TV, Channel 21, and cantv.org/hotline. Good evening.